Welcome to Task 5. Although a lack of an itinerary or agenda can be a relaxing way to spend a vacation or afternoon, teachers simply do not have an excess of instructional time, and every minute that students are with us is precious. Inefficient uses of time are always of great concern, as it leads to lower student achievement levels, increased opportunities for problem behaviors to arise, and is the cause of a substantial amount of the frustrations experienced in the classroom. Determining goals and outcomes is an effective remedy for ensuring that we make the best use of ours and our students' time. The driving question is, what do you want to happen? Due to the teach to the test mentality that teachers have imposed on their planning practices, we often look to state standards to identify our goals. After identifying the standards that our lessons cover, we tend to quickly craft an objective to write on the board that rearranges the words found in the standard. We might briefly read it at the beginning of class. Some teachers even have students write it on their notes before class begins. And just when we thought we had informed everyone of the goal, a student asks, "What are we going to do today?" Although standards provide vital direction and work to ensure that students are provided with unifying learning experiences, they are not the only source to consider when identifying the goals and expected outcomes of a problem-based learning lesson. Learning goals and outcomes must be student-friendly. When your student reads the objective and still asks what they're going to be doing today, you know your objective is not student-friendly. Rather than creating an objective that vaguely points us north, south, east, or west, we need to give our students the Siri version of where class is headed and exactly where the destination is. These goals must also be observable. Now, that does not mean that by the end of class, a student has to produce a piece of work, such as pass a test or a pop quiz. It can simply be an observation of a behavior or attitude or skill demonstrated in a group discussion, or possibly even a student-generated question. Just because we use the word observable, it doesn't necessarily mean something big. An observable achievement of a goal in a problem-solving lesson could be that the student identified missing information needed to come to a conclusion, or they contributed in a small or whole group discussion. The goal also has to be focused. If we all left the school to go to a conference in different vehicles, and Siri only would guide us to a 3-block radius when giving directions, we would most likely all end up in a different place. A few of us would be in the coffee shop. A couple would find a restaurant. One might be looking at a historical marker, and there's always that one that would be taking a nap on a nearby park bench. Even though we were initially headed to the same place, a lack of focused instructions and vocabulary to tell us where we were going to 123 Maple Street, the public library, the likelihood of us all meeting the goal would not be very high. Students need directions and goals set for them. Our problem-based lesson plans should include an objective or goal so that our students know where they are going and when they have arrived. These goals and objectives must also be attainable. If your goal for a single class period, it shouldn't include that students will be able to explain the geometric applications for the construction of a skyscraper. There's no way students, or at least I wouldn't, be able to attain that learning goal by the end of a 45-minute time period. As adults, we are all too familiar with having an overwhelming workload, and it frustrates us when there's too much to do and not enough hours in the day to do it. Students experience the same overwhelming frustration when we ask too much. Our goals should push students and provide them with enough to keep them engaged throughout the class period, but stop short of making the goal unattainable, which can lead to students disengaging because they feel failure is imminent. Lastly, words matter. I am certainly no wordsmith, but I know that when I read the learning goal of a learning experience is to pass a test, I immediately feel a sense of dread. And I'm a passionate learner. And if the objective were reworded to say that students will explore, enter your concept here, and discover 2 issues that relate to the big idea that you identified in task 4, all of a sudden we move from, oh, we have to learn this for a test, to we get to explore and discover. This could be fun. The next important step in planning effective problem-based learning lessons is to invite students into the goal and outcome setting process. This is a critical skill students need to develop before they fly our nest. If you have asked very many students, why did you do that? The most common response is, I don't know. In helping students become successful adults, it's our duty to encourage and develop the skill of setting self-directed goals. We know that purposeful action is the key to most of life's successes. For example, we all decided to commit to a 4-year degree plan and attain good grades in our classes so that we could pass our content exams and become licensed teachers. We did all that so that we would have an income. Maybe an income and a work environment that helped us support our families. Students will be expected to be able to set a goal for themselves once we're no longer there to set them for them. We must teach them how to articulate these goals so that they can make a comprehensive plan on how to achieve them. We can use problem-based learning to help them move from having a vague idea of what they want to happen to a detailed, Siri-inspired direction and destination. Lastly, planning opportunities for students to practice this process is instrumental in problem-based learning lessons. As the focus moves away from teacher-directed instruction, your lesson plans should include these vital experiences to engage in student-led or self-directed goal setting, which is one of the foundational principles for using this instructional strategy effectively. Be sure to include these opportunities. It does not have to be a scenario where students write the lesson objective. It can be something as simple as having them state what they need to learn to achieve mastery within those parameters we set in task 4 and what they need to do to get there. As we plan opportunities for students to engage in the goal-setting process in our lesson plans, it's important to provide a safe, risk-free environment. Students may need some gentle guiding at first, but students will be much less resistant to engage in this learning activity if they don't fear adverse repercussions. Your plan should include assurances that students won't be embarrassed by having to state their goal in front of their peers unless they're comfortable doing so. Any group discussions should remain positive and encourage unique goals, even if they aren't exactly right at first. This skill is developed over time, and patience will be required of both you and your students. Think of a toddler. If they're hungry, they set a goal to eat. The desired outcome might be that they get to eat ice cream. They've articulated their goal, even if not in coherent words yet, but each child will see different paths to take to get to the desired outcome. One child might cry. One might sweetly ask their parent, and another might try to climb the cabinet and get it out of the freezer themselves. Obviously, not all avenues are going to work. Our students will experience the same opportunities for failures and successes when developing this skill, and it's important that the learning environment encourages them to try again. Another helpful plan in developing this skill is in instructor modeling. Most students are accustomed to coming in, sitting down, and the teacher tells them the objective. They don't see you write your lesson plans or what all steps you took when developing your learning goals. Allowing students to see you go through this process can significantly improve their abilities to set their own goals because they've witnessed it happen. We can read the instructions on how to change a tire, but once we've seen it done successfully, we tend to be more confident to try it on our own and expect success. For students that are less mature in their goal-setting abilities, include the modeling process of goal setting in your problem-based lesson plans to nurture that confidence that they will need to be successful when using this skill. The question for Task 5 is, how will you provide your students an opportunity to set goals? Be sure to pay attention to the learning environment and take into account prior experiences your students may have with this skill. Happy planning!